please keep an eye out for future videos. I have a pretty exciting announcement. If we can get to 15,000 subscribers by the end of the year, I'm going to give away a layout. Up to $5,000 in value. I will help you design it. I will build it. And all you have to pay for is delivery. Now what this means is it can be a pretty good size layout, and it's entirely designed by you and then built by me on this channel. So if you're interested in something like that, or if you have a friend that might be interested, subscribe. If I can get to 15,000 subscribers, that's how I'm going to pay for it, guys. I will give away a layout on this channel, and I will take you along for the entire ride. Design, build, delivery, and installation if you're local to Florida. With that said, enjoy today's video, and we'll see you around. So a couple of things I'm going to show you is, one is I've got two switches that are very close together, and I'm going to have to modify the plastic here so I can join them properly. And then the second thing is I'm going to start drawing in the pencil lines of where I'm going to cut on the plywood so I can get all of the elevations set properly. With that said, let me do some cleanup and we'll get to that. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to show you is with Kato Unitrack in particular, when you put two switches back to back like this, they do tend to interfere, especially when you've got another crossover going in place. So what you have to do is you actually have to trim the corner of the plastic here. And typically what I'll do is I'll just use a pair of either rail nippers or some sprue cutters here like this. And I'll just go ahead and I will trim back that edge just a little bit. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark it with pencil. Keep in mind that the pencil really doesn't matter because you're really not going to see it in the end. It really blends in well. So I'm just going to clip that corner back just a little bit. And remember, it's better to do too little than to do too much. So you really want to just trim this a little at a time until it fits like it's supposed to. Okay, so I'm pretty close. So you can tell I've got it together. It's getting there, but I've got to trim it back just a little bit more. Like so. And I'll see if that did it. All right, so it snaps together, but you'll notice that it's not sitting flat. And the reason for that is Kato switches, particularly HO ones, they actually have this funky little setup where actually part of the plastic is removable. So the ballast profile comes apart so you can actually tie these things in together. Now unfortunately it only works on the one side, not on both. So in this particular case, I've got to take these little nubs here and trim them down. In this case, I'm just going to trim this back altogether, like so, and then put it back together. Now, if this is your first time working with Kato Unitrack, it could be a little scary to start cutting up on, a $35 switch first thing out of the gate. So if you want to, take some of the shorter pieces you're not going to end up using, because inevitably you're going to have a few extras, and just cut those up. Keep in mind you can modify the length of track, you can modify the shape, you can even create custom switches. You've got a lot of options when it comes to your model railroad tracks. So this is still raised. I can feel a little bit of a lip there. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that plastic underneath it. And I'm just going to trim that back entirely so it's out of our way. So again, the trick with this is you just cut a little bit away at a time. You don't want to take too much, but it is kind of forgiving because ultimately this is plastic. You can you can fill it back in. Kato actually makes their own ballast. So if you do have some little gaps and stuff, you can actually fill it in with ballast. So you have options. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. Okay, so everything's sitting nice and flush now. I don't have any bumps or other spots where trains are going to derail. Everything feels nice and smooth. So that fills in that little spot. Now there's little plastic pieces that came out of there. I'm going to see if I can get one of those trimmed. Okay, so this is the little piece of plastic that came out of the spot. You know, it's got a little pin that holds it in place. And it just slides in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just trim this roughly to shape, and hopefully it'll look really good. All right, and that fits pretty well. All right, so now that we have that all connected up the way it should be, everything's lined up, it feels nice and comfortable, and our track is roughly in the position we want it to be, we're going to go ahead and start drawing in the shape that we need to cut for the layout. Now for this, I actually have a little trick that I like to use with Kato track, and you can actually do this with your other track brands, even the Flex Track and stuff like that. But basically the trick is just use a large washer. You place it down next to the track, and then you use that to help guide you along the track as you draw in the shape you need. Again, so you just place the large washer down. This is just a fender washer. Cost me about 5 cents at Home Depot. And you just use that to help you draw the shape that you need. Okay, so now in this particular corner over here, I've got one track that goes over the other one. Now I'm going to choose to focus on the upper track versus the lower one, because the lower one we can simply fill that back in later. So what that means is when I cut the plywood, my focus is going to be on supporting the upper level versus the lower level, because you can only choose one when they cross over each other like this. So I'm going to pick a common point here. So I know the end of this switch is going to be square with everything. The end of this curve over here is going to be square with everything as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a straight line across on both sides and then create an angle that'll probably be fairly random. So this line I'm not cutting, this is more just a marker for me, whereas the other line for this will actually come over here and intersect with it. So keep in mind I'm keeping the track right where it's laying. I'm just moving it out of the way so I can draw my pencil line. Okay, so I know this is going to be the upper portion, and then the other portion over here is, so this track is coming up in elevation, this track is going down in elevation. So for the back portion over here, I know these two tracks are going in opposite grades. So this one's going up, this one's going down. So I know I need to divide them. So I'm just going to grab some random straight material of a consistent depth, and I'm just going to find one that looks about right to me. For me, this one looks about right. So I'm just going to use it as a straight edge, and I'm going to draw myself a pencil line. And then I just feathered in the other line so I knew where it needed to go. So in this case, I know this is going to be above everything else. And I know that all of this is going to be above everything else. So this line here doesn't need to exist anymore because it's not going to get cut. But we do know that this is going to get cut through here so that the lower track can be filled in as needed. Okay, so now that I have all of the pencil lines drawn in and I know what I'm going to be cutting, I'm going to go ahead and take this layout apart in big chunks, and I'm going to lay it off to the side and then remove the plywood top so I can go ahead and cut all that shape into the plywood. Okay, so having now cleared off all the track, I know roughly where my shapes need to be in order to get the grades that I need in order for this layout to function properly. So I'm going to go ahead and take this sheet off so I can go ahead and start cutting it up. Okay, so now that I've got the plywood cut to the rough shape I need, I know this front piece here is all going to be at 0 level. So I can screw this down and feel comfortable with that. And then the rest of this is all going to get graded up. So I'm going to stop putting screws in probably somewhere right about here. So I'll do this whole corner, and then we'll start playing with the grade. Now we know that the track is going to cross over itself in this top right corner, so we'll have to make sure that we have the proper clearance there, and we'll go from that point. Okay, that takes care of the lowest flat portion. The rest of this is all going to be on grade. We know this back corner is going to be somewhere between 3.5 and 4 inches tall, depending on the types of trains running. So I've got some 3.5 inch sticks here that I'm going to put in there just for the moment. And keep in mind, all I'm doing right now is just getting it roughed up into the right spot, just so we have a vague idea of where it's going and what needs to happen. So we know this corner is going to start going up. So I'm just using scrap plywood. You can use some scrap 2x4s or, pots and pans or cats, whatever you got laying around. And go ahead and shim it up a little bit just so you have a rough idea of what you need. Now, with a small layout like this, it's really, quite frankly, it's pretty difficult to get a nice, even, consistent grade. You can do it, but it's a lot more work. So what we're doing here is we're kind of meeting in the middle. So we know we have to be so high over there. We know we have to have so much clearance over here. So what we're doing is we're kind of meeting in the middle to make sure that we can meet the needs of the layout while still having the lowest possible gradient that we can. So I know over here I put in a few too many screws. So I'm going to pull those out. And it should soften this up a little bit. So I know I can't go too much past this point here, which is about 18 inches from the edge of the layout, because the curves start, and there's the siding over here. We want all of that to be flat if we can. So if we have to, we'll actually cut it to make sure it stays flat. But let's play around with this a little bit and see what we can get. Hey, thanks for watching today's video. If you liked, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment down below. Your questions and comments below actually help me figure out what you want to watch next. Thanks for watching.